You're listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. Whether it's for food, fuel, drinks, or snacks, about half of the U.S. population shops at a convenience store every day. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
Convenience used to be as much about physical stores as about what's inside. It still is, but with these trying times, it's become even more important to meet the customers where they are, or where they think they want to be. Welcome to Convenience Matters. I'm Carolyn Schnare with NACS.
And I'm Jeff Lenard with NACS. And today our guest is Rob Powell. He is president of e-commerce services at Advantage. Welcome, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate being here.
So to tee up, one of the things is we start with a little bit of explanation about where we are in this moment in time. It is late May, and we're still working at home, doing home recording studios. But that's why, Rob, I think you're a perfect guest, because you can kind of walk us through where we are in terms of what the effects of the pandemic are having on retail as people look towards new ways of going to stores or stores coming to them. So starting out in looking at how stores are going to them, we hear about curbside, we hear about delivery, we hear about all these other elements, but people are also spending a lot more time online. And how does all of that e-commerce fit together in what convenience stores might want to look at with this new interest in I can order things online, maybe pick them up?
Yeah, so you're starting with a really small question that I'm sure we can just give you a few answers, right?
Nothing too in depth.
just tell it all to me in 30 seconds or less. I think a lot has changed. I've been working in the e-commerce space now for about 15 years, and when I started, people kind of laughed. They said, "Yeah, you're going to help brands do something that isn't very big." And even if you just think about the last year or so, e-commerce was around, depending on what measurement you use, anywhere from 3 to 5% of total CPG sales were done through e-commerce. But what's happened over the last 90 days here in the beginning of 2020 is that we've retrained the U.S. households to be thinking about e-commerce as fundamental. Like if you just look at the last week or so of March, the estimates are about a third of all U.S. households tried some sort of grocery delivery or pickup service. The numbers keep going. Like the spikes are amazing what's happening. And what we've done is we've hit somewhere around from 3 to 5%, depending on what measurements, to 15 to 18% now of total orders are going through digital. Look at Walmart just announced their Q1 sales, and they said something like 78% or so of their 74%, I think, of their orders, their growth was done through e-commerce. 74% quarter over quarter is just amazing. And go ahead.
I was going to say, when you look at most people, when they say, what's the competition, they'll originally name who their traditional just like them competition is, but the biggest competition for most retailers is not doing anything. And when you talk about using e-commerce and all these platforms, once somebody tries something, it's a lot closer to a routine and something that will happen again. So this explosion in usage probably is not going to go away anytime soon, even as conditions change. This is something that everybody should anticipate is going to continue to grow as routines are established.
Yeah, if you just think about human biology, just in general, it typically takes 4 to 6 weeks to create a practice, something you're going to do again and again. We've been in this for 90 or so days, and the numbers continue to soar. If you look at what's going on, Instacart said they're going to do $35 billion this year. Like the number they were originally projecting for 2025 is now this year's number. Like it's not going away. Look at DoorDash and Postmates. Both of those, like DoorDash just partnered with 1,800 national and regional convenience stores, right? Postmates opened up delivery from 7,000 Walgreens. Like people are headed this way in all different vehicles, processes to get to that consumer. And they're trying to get to that consumer at home or through some sort of curbside pickup because that's where the growth is.
And I mean, we don't even have to, by Amazon. I mean, I've seen it drive down my street because I sit in my front of my house and I watch the Amazon delivery truck come to my house a lot, but up and down, up and down. I mean, there must be, 50 deliveries a day on my street. So, I mean, and it's like, I never used to say, I'm going to buy one thing, but I bought a $2 dog scoop for dog food the other day on Amazon, and I didn't even think twice about it. And meanwhile, I'm like, oh, the greenhouse gas emissions and all this other thing. But I'm not thinking about that. I'm like, well, I'm not going to run to Target or Walmart or, wherever on my way home anymore.
Yeah, my best friend is the delivery person that drives up every day to my door 2 or 3 times. It's ridiculous, right?
Oh, I wave to them now. We're like friends.
Yeah, and we all think that it's for us. You see that truck going down the street and it's like, oh, it must be my delivery. And I think for a second and I say, wait, I didn't order anything, but I'm just, that important, I guess.
Well, we think about, and I keep going back to, I love the intro you did on the show just now. You said 50% of shoppers, if I get it right, 50% of shoppers go to a convenience store every day. And I think that is still true. People are still, especially as we begin to open up, people are still going for gas and kind of those quick trips. And part of what you see, I believe, is the consumer, the American consumer is comfortable inside their neighborhood, inside what they're used to and familiar with. And so that opportunity to touch that consumer in a way that a big player like Amazon or maybe a Walmart click and collect can't necessarily. I think e-commerce opened up that opportunity in a new and unique way.
And unfortunately, we've seen some businesses have closed. They haven't really evolved. And sometimes it's bad management, but unfortunately, the people who've worked there a long time now have to find another job if they're able. And we hear this thing that we're overstored now. This shows a fundamental truism that we have too many stores. We have too many restaurants. Things will change. The physical stores will change. Are there opportunities or threats that you look at associated with them for retailers? Whether that means that there'll be fewer people on the road that may go to convenience stores, or does this mean like a big online player could acquire some of these physical presences and really do something pretty amazing with them?
Yeah, so I stood up in an IFTA conference, so that's the International Food Distributor Association, and did a presentation maybe 2 weeks after Amazon bought Whole Foods. And I put on the last slide, I think the next acquisition for Amazon in the 24-month period horizon was a regional or kind of a multi-regional distributor, because I think they were going to get big into food. Now, that hasn't, you could have heard a pin drop. It hasn't happened yet. If you just think about Amazon Go stores, right? So they've got these small little footprints that are more about convenience, but Amazon's just announced Amazon Grocery, which is about 10x the size of a Go store, and opens up, a lot more place all the way down to fresh produce. So, yeah, I think there's a chance that a big player like an Amazon might acquire some sort of physical footprint. But I think more you're going to see this kind of opportunity to get into that smaller footprint that is more specific to the geography, to that neighborhood, to that consumer. We've been forecasting a lot, and not just me, but just the industry's been forecasting a lot, this idea of hyper-localization of the shelf. Digital gives that opportunity to expand in a much broader way. It's almost like dark kitchens in the restaurant industry, right? They don't have to worry as much about the front of the house because they're just focusing on the back of the house. The same kind of thing happens potentially when we look at localized fulfillment centers that are out in the regional areas. That's part of what Walmart and Target, right? If you just look at Target's results from Q1, they're claiming somewhere between both Walmart and Target are claiming so many people are so close to those stores. And what they're trying to figure out is how to use those stores as delivery nodes well. Nobody's got it nailed yet, but there's an opportunity there for the more nimble, the more agile retailers that are out there, I think.
So, Rob, you brought up Amazon, and maybe I brought up Amazon, but either way, where Jeff and I live, or where we used to work, and we'll someday go back, is in Alexandria, Virginia, which is the soon-to-be probably home of the new Amazon headquarters. Is going to be in Crystal City, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. And they have been buying up property and just all kinds of space to build this enormous campus, which I've been thinking about lately. And with the change of the way people work, more people wanting to work from home because you have to, because you can, because you like it, because you have no choice. I'm wondering what's going to happen with that Amazon HQ if they're rethinking this. And I haven't read anything about this, and I don't know if you know a whole lot about that. But it then also brings to light that all those people that were going to move in here, right, a year ago, property values in our DC area have been going through the roof because everybody's got to sell so they can get Amazon. All the new folks that are going to be moving into town. Well, maybe what if they're not moving into town? What if they're not shopping at the new grocery stores they just built, the new convenience stores, all the new retail that is going up and popping up everywhere, all the new gyms that are making space for all these new headquarter employees that, who knows, may or may not even relocate here anymore if there's no offices. So I guess my question is people change as work changes? And now we've already talked about delivery, both with food and with product. What do we need to think about with customers now that their mindset has probably shifted for a different way to the e-commerce side of things?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't have a clue what's going on with their headquarters or their footprint, if you will, for brick and mortar. I mean, for actual physical space. But it's interesting. I mean, they're opening up a huge center in Nashville, Tennessee. Nobody really talks about that. They're opening up, part of where Amazon's going is they need people to keep running that engine, to keep thinking about new and innovative things. So does Walmart. Walmart's growing like crazy with people in the digital space. Target is growing. But how that all ends up in physical buildings, I don't know. More importantly, I think, is your question about how do you then get to the consumer? And I think I think digital gives a lot more opportunity, especially with the personalization and customization, the data that exists on these platforms, to be able to really get a brand focused on what they care about. One of the divisions I run actually just did an article about advertising on Amazon, and they were talking about the trap that many brands fall into when they focus on it's called ROAS, return on ad spend, and the real point is, return on ad spend might be the metric to think about to go after your consumer, but maybe not too. You might be going for just net new people, and you can use the data that exists in these retail platforms to go after people that haven't used your brand before. You could use the data to say, it's interesting, somewhere around 60 or so % of the U.S. consumers in a recent survey said that because of the out of stock situation that's taken place, they've had to buy brands that are not their normal brands. Now, that's a really cool thing. Let's go advertise if you're a brand that's trying to get into the market, right? It's a little scary thing if you're a big national that owns a large segment of the demographic, the population today. But if you're an innovative brand and you're trying to get into it, how do we go after those people that have tried my product because my competitor was out of stock? And I just want to go after advertising and targeting that group. The on-premise, the on-retail platform advertising systems let you go after that kind of demographic. So there's a lot of opportunity to really make your message and take your message and personalize it to that individual shopper through digital.
Yeah, and I'd like to tie together a couple of things you've talked about with the out-of-stocks, routines, and things like that. And thinking about the way shopping is now, men now do shopping lists. That's, I think, probably one of those most amazing things that you'll hear out of this, because people are looking to minimize their exposure in general. They want to make sure that what they set out to get, they're able to get. Then you go to stores, and sometimes it's convenience stores, sometimes it's grocery stores. Sometimes they have things like one-way aisles. So you really have to be more disciplined on what you want, because people are going there, they're planning, and they've established this routine now. So they're going to continue to plan, because, as you said, 4 to 6 weeks to establish a routine. The routine may switch. It may no longer be about safety and wellness as much as it is now, but the routine of planning will stay. So what can brands do to get in people's minds, or brands being either CPG companies or the retailers, so that they are top of mind when somebody's ready to go shopping?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And
that costs a lot of money to answer, doesn't it?
Exactly. No. The challenge is they need to do it now. Like actually, they need to have been doing it for the last 6 to 8 months. So like whether you're talking about Amazon Fresh, Walmart's OG app, Kroger's online app, like one of the things that's consistent is they will all give you numbers that say somewhere between 20 and 30% of the first shops you do are about exploration. Now, what that means is if I go to the Walmart OG app, the first 20-ish times, I'm going to click around and see what's available and take a look and do that research, right? Or if I go to Amazon Fresh or whatever. The problem is somewhere around that 20th time, and it's no different than the first time you walk into a grocery store, right? Think about the first time you go into a store. You're not familiar with the aisles. You don't really know the layout. You're going to explore. You're going to look around. You're going to see what cool stuff they have, as well as your kind of core brands. But eventually you get to a point where you know the aisles, you know which way they go, and you know how to get what you're after right away. And so the challenge with this digital is what they find is somewhere after that 20th shop, about 80% of all orders come from the basket. Because like you said, I've now planned my basket. I know what I want. And I want to just be able to go to the app and say, yep, get that. I'm going to pick it up in 3 hours in spot number 2 at on the driveway. And so the challenge from a brand is how to get in front of that. And that's where I go back to this advertising, like using that on-premise data that each of those retailers or the advertising partners that the retailers have picked, like Criteo or like some of what we can do now with Instacart, to really define what is that profile you're after and then try and get in front. Now, Advantage is also doing some really interesting stuff like with Walmart around OG sampling. So why not, you used to think about sampling when you walked into a store. What they're beginning to do is test, what about sampling as you drive up? How do we get you the opportunity to try a little piece of something, a single serving, that kind of stuff. So
what is OG sampling?
Oh, sorry. OG. So OG is online grocery, right? I always use acronyms. Sorry.
Okay.
So
I thought it was Original Gangsta. I thought that was like a 80s rap reference.
Yeah, no. Online grocery sampling is the idea of when you drive up to get your click and collect, right? So I've ordered something in the store and somebody's going to hopefully come deliver it to my car. Like, is there a couple things in that basket that maybe I didn't ask for, like a single serving of new candy or, some sort of chip that I've not tried before. So the same thing that you would do if you were traditionally sampling in stores. So the point is, how do you bring that forward and create new opportunities for consumers to engage with your product?
That's a really cool idea, because who doesn't like free stuff?
Yeah,
that's a really cool idea, whether you're retail or the brand.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, no, you go. Finish that thought. I was going to go somewhere else.
No, I just I think that what we're trying to do with brands are continue to look for ways to engage. We're also testing some AR type opportunities. So AR is augmented reality. So, if you're a beauty brand, how do I take a picture? How do I look at my camera on my phone and try on the lipstick or the blush? If I'm, a store brand, like we did, we've done some stuff with brands where when you point your camera at the box, it comes alive. And talks to you in some way. Like there's some ways to engage that I think create new opportunities for brands to reach out and touch consumers too about what that consumer profile cares about.
You can do that with I want to say it's one of the online furniture decorator stuff. You can do that and see, what does this rug look like in my living room? And I've bought some really dumb stuff while I'm home on this thing. I'm like, oh, look at that. But I've literally spent more on rugs and random stuff because I'm just like, what is that? Maybe let's try a new something here. Let's decorate this. Like my backyard looks amazing. I bought so much for my patio. No one's going to ever see it, but I like it if I'm going to spend all that time with it. But this goes back to what you were talking about, Jeff, and how men don't make shopping lists, which is true almost everywhere that I know. How do you make a shopping list? Is yours still paper, Jeff?
Of course it is.
Well, that's true. Who am I talking to? So
And
ours
I
is
fax it to myself.
ours is Alexa. So we just yell Alexa, and we've got several of them tied together in the house. It's just like, and now I'm going to say something and add something to my list right now since I'm home. Like, Alexa, add toilet paper to the shopping list. Alexa, add this, and it ties to my phone. It goes there. My husband and I both have the app, so when we go shopping, whoever is the one that's making the trip out that week can buy it. And the kids, I got a couple kids who do it too, and they add really dumb stuff to it. Like, they'll be like, add burps to the shopping list. But, and it makes me chuckle sometimes when I'm in the store. But my point being is that the assistants, the virtuals, the Alexas, the Google Home, Siri, even, I've become like so dependent on them because I might not be near paper and pencil wherever I am in my house. And now I just yell things out and someone makes a list for me somewhere. Are you finding a lot more people leaning towards or advertising on virtual assistants?
Yeah, so my Alexa just went crazy. You'll probably hear it on the rewrite.
Sorry.
The list.
You're going to have burps on your list. Sorry, I did that.
But yeah, we are seeing more and more of this kind of voice commerce work into the story. It's still early, I think, from a revenue standpoint. I was reading an article recently. I think about the last time you actually wrote an email completely, 3-4 paragraphs with your voice. But it's coming. I know plenty of people that you can always tell when you get a text message, it's like a page long. That's somebody just using their voice. So it is that kind of natural selection process that's showing up. I think the challenge there is more back to search and really understanding how your products show up on a voice search versus, typing something. There's, if you think about Walmart, the application that's used for the OG, actually they just merged two Walmart apps about a week and a half ago now. But the application that uses online grocery versus the Walmart.com have different criteria for search and different ways to set product up. The same thing used to happen with Amazon as well, whether you're talking about you're doing it for the mobile app or you're doing it for your browser. And so paying attention to all of that, the nuances of what you can do there become really important. For years, the only retailer that had a different title for the product between their app and their website, believe it or not, was Target. Like, you could put two different titles on, because think about it, on your phone, you don't really have as much room for a title as you do on a browser. But so voice is coming, but it's really the interaction of voice and visual, I think, that's going to make a difference. Because if you think about when you're on your phone, what are you doing? You're not necessarily reading a lot of text. You want to see images. And so I thought it's really interesting how Instacart and Facebook just came out with a partnership, was it last week, where if you create an Instacart DTC site, direct-to-consumer site, you can now enable that on Facebook, on one of the tabs on your Facebook for the brand. We're going to see more and more brands kind of figuring out how to reach out to consumers, not just because they want to go sell more. They may be wanting to test. They may be wanting to test consumer reaction and sentiment. They may be working on innovation and they want to get some feedback for the innovation, and they need a way to launch that. So I think you're going to see more exploration happen.
So, Rob, wrap this up with one final question, and thinking about as people look at all these technologies, how do they make sure that they put the consumer top of mind as they do this? And the perfect example is something that happened over the weekend. We just talked about voice assistants. One of them, the Ring lit up, and I was all excited. I thought I had a package, and I asked what the notification was. And the voice assistant, who I won't name, Alexa, then said, "You just bought this. Would you like to review it now?" And to me, that struck me as one caution I think any business wants to have, is that's where it stopped becoming about the customer. That was about how they can tell stories and things like that. And yes, you can get ratings and all that, but I was all excited about a package or some kind of big notification, and it felt like a big letdown. It was disappointing. I don't know how long that will go on, what they're doing, but are there any key guidance or guardrails that you have for anybody looking to sell on digital and virtual and voice type platforms?
So I guess So I'm trying to think about how to wrap all this. So the number one thing I'd say is first go there, right? Like you as a brand today, I saw a great kind of article that, a bunch of guys sitting in a conference room and the lady says, "Hey, I think we're fine for digital commerce." And then somebody else says, "Yeah, you're right. It's not coming." And outside the window is this big wrecking ball coming in, right? I mean, digital is absolutely here to stay. It's not going away. It's going to be a fundamental part of the brand journey and how they engage with consumers. But like, where I would go is if you think of it. So I was working with a shopper marketing team, Advantage's shopper marketing team last weekend, and they said, like, part of what they're trying to do is get away from talking about the shopper, because it's not about a shopper profile anymore. It's about that person. And how do we really think about the person and the attributes and qualities that that individual has? Because with digital, we can market and have a conversation with people instead of with a profile. We can talk to, we can use that data that exists to really hone in and figure out that this message is going to work with this person versus, putting something that's going to work across 3,000 doors, across the country. And so that hyper-localization, that opportunity to really have a conversation and like go do it yourself, right? Go out and buy your own brands. Try Alexa, try Siri, try the different OG apps, and try it at different locations. Don't just assume that I always buy at my store down the street and it's got an app that I can use. Like, go to the one that's 10 miles away and try it there. Go to the one in the other state and try it there, because it's a different experience, I bet, at each of those too.
Rob, that's once we can start getting to different states. I can't wait to try that out. But we're in the tri-state area, so we're pretty close in the DC area here too. But that's such an interesting idea, and all the things that you've been telling us about are really eye-opening and stuff that we would have probably not talked as curiously about maybe 6 months ago on the show, because things have changed so much just in 3 months. And, if a store doesn't have an online presence or a restaurant doesn't have online ordering and you have to call, it's like confusing now. And maybe that's me. But I know even my parents who are in their 70s are doing the same thing. They're like, wait, what do you mean I have to go into a store and order, or, a restaurant and order? So I think you're right. Just try it. Right. And if that's the one thing everybody can take away from this, it's just try it, and you'll get there. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of platforms out there you can try try your hand at if you don't have something already working in your store for people to pick up, carry out, find out what's happening, what's in your store, even if you're open, things like that. So Rob, tell us a little bit more about where people can follow you, find you, hear some more awesome insights about you, website, LinkedIn, all that fun stuff.
Sure. I'm out on LinkedIn. It's Rob, R-O-B-B, Powell. So you can find me at linkedin.com/Rob Powell. Advantage Solutions has a great site that talks all about the different divisions of Advantage, and the digital commerce side is the group I manage. Today, there are 4 businesses in that. It's Sage Tree, which is a company I started a long time ago. So Sage Tree, Beekeeper Marketing, Quiver, and Quantum. And so that's kind of the variation between everything that you could possibly want to do from an online perspective, whether it's helping you in your first party relationships and setting up sales, to looking at your supply chain and figuring out how to reduce your chargebacks, to defining who can and can't sell your products out on retail sites, all the way into, we have 2 divisions that will take possession of product and manage the entire e-commerce process for you. So it's a kind of end-to-end solution in that, and you can find me on any of those websites.
Well, I'm sure you have your hands full these days, and in good way. It's going to get fuller as people start transitioning even more online. Well, Rob, thank you so much for your time today. It was really great talking to you, and I'd love to have you back on. We could explore some of these topics even more in depth. And thank you for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.